So here we are at the last non-major category for the Oscars, which is Best Documentary Feature, which might just be my favorite category of them all. And the nominees are Citizen 4, Laura Poitras, Mathilde Bonifoy, and Dirk Wilitzky; Finding Vivian Maier, John Maloof, and Charlie Siskel; Last Days in Vietnam, Rory Kennedy and Kevin McAllister; The Salt of the Earth, Wim Wenders, Lelia Wanik Salgado, and David Rosier; and Virunga, Orlando von Einsiedel, and Joanna Natasegara. Now, before I say anything else, I was only able to watch 4 out of these 5 nominees, so I can't say anything about The Salt of the Earth. However, the 4 ones I did watch, I thought were all great. That's why I find this category to be my favorite, because I really don't know how to review documentaries, but so they remain very, very fresh and exciting for me when I do watch them. I know some people were mad that Life Itself, which is a documentary about Roger Ebert, was not nominated, but these 4 ones really are great. So, in terms of who I think should have won the Oscar, at 4th place, I'm going to put Finding Vivian Maier. And I think this movie really is very innovative in the way it tells its story, because it really tries to uncover the mysteries behind this woman just through her photos and her possessions that she used to have, because she passed away before this movie was even made. And it's still impressive how the story manages to progress in a logical way just through observing her stuff. The visuals are very clean, the music helps capture the mood and Meyer's strangeness. The editing makes very good use of her tens of thousands of photographs. They really pick the ones that kind of really support the testimonies being given. And speaking of which, the people they got to interview for this film, they really raise a lot of really interesting contradictory facts about her. So you begin to wonder, like, was she really a good person? Was she an abusive nanny? Did she have a psychological illness? But I think the film leaves the door wide open for us to decide for ourselves if her art should be recognized as art, and if it's ethical for us to be exposing her art to the world even without her consent. Now, 3rd place, I'm going to put Citizen 4. And the great thing about Citizen 4 is that it feels like you're watching a work of fiction the entire time, because this documentary feels like it actually has plotting and suspense in it. If you check the Wikipedia page, it calls the style cinema verite or something. I'm not really sure what that means exactly, but the way this movie is filmed is that it's all pretty much in real time. So you're there with Edward Snowden and Laura Poitras as they decide to expose the NSA surveillance scandal. And I think it really makes things personal. You really feel like you're there with them making the decisions. Plus points also for using music from Nine Inch Nails' Ghosts 1 to 4, which really kind of supports the eeriness of the situation. And most of this movie takes place in these tiny closed locations like Snowden's hotel room or these conference halls, and I think that really, really helps increase the tension and the paranoia you feel after hearing about these NSA infrastructures. And while this movie is very, very technical with its jargon, which I really appreciate actually, because it challenges the audience to really keep up, and it's not impossible to understand. It's a really good kind of portrait for what Edward Snowden is fighting for, but at the same time, for me, it's just as much about the reactions of these people as they decide to expose this momentous thing. So it's really, really fascinating to see that. At 2nd place, I'm going to put Last Days in Vietnam. And among the 4 nominees I watched, this is most definitely the most conventional of all of them. It has mostly talking heads and whatnot. But I think like the personal accounts that this movie manages to collect and juxtapose is just absolutely breathtaking, because this is, I think, a good example of how to present like hard facts, just pure testimonials without having to analyze them, and you can wring so much emotion out of them. And the archival footage they have here and the photographs they use are absolutely amazing. What's cool is that throughout this entire movie, you have like several set pieces about people trying to evacuate from Vietnam after the Americans left. And you hear different accounts from different people, but their stories interweave, and it's amazing to see that. That you have different perspectives on the same event. And even if you know what happened after the Vietnam War, it's still extremely tense, and you want people to survive. What's great is that this documentary continues from where most movies about Vietnam War stop talking about the Vietnam War. So for me, it really drives home the idea that because this movie focuses so much on specifically the evacuation, like it really brings home the point that after war, like there are permanent effects, and even if you get out of there, there's still a lot of stuff to sort through. But at number 1, who I think should have won the Oscar, is Virunga. And just like Citizen 4, Virunga is presented in real time. They tried to start off this documentary by just kind of observing this heritage site of Virunga, but then it suddenly exploded into this whole expose of sorts. into Sogo International trying to mine the place for oil and the brewing civil war in the Congo. And this really makes it feel like fiction in the sense that the way this story is presented, it takes time to really establish context, make you care about certain people and things, so that the last 30 minutes of this movie, when it happens, is just so heart-stopping and emotional and suspenseful, and it's incredible to see. The visuals are also equally incredible. There are certain points during the movie where they film people undercover, and it's extremely tense and exciting. Um, and what's great is that this movie starts out by tackling extremely different issues, but it manages to slowly tie them all together by unifying them through location and context of what's happening in the country. And I think Virunga is definitely much more than just like a wildlife, about wildlife or conservation of nature. It tackles so many different things, everything from war and the effects of war on the environment to just the base colonial mentality that some people actually still have in this day and age, which is egged on by racism, and it's horrifying to see. And I think this movie, it was incredible. It was so good and emotional, and I think everybody should check it out. But in terms of who I think was going to win the Oscar, I predicted Citizen Four because it was just sweeping everything else, and it did win, but which is all right because it's definitely the most ambitious of all these documentaries. It's probably the most important, and it's an excellent film. So those are my thoughts on the best documentary feature category for this year. What did you guys think about Citizen Four winning? Who do you think should have won? Whatever you thought, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.